military stayed abroad. And we're seeing that today. We're all beginning to understand that the function of the intelligence agencies is simply to provide us with a constant pipeline of new wars that feed the military-industrial complex. So we spent $8 trillion on wars since 2001. Here's what we got for the Iraq War, which is half of that cost. Iraq is worse off than we found it. Mm-hmm. We killed more Iraqis than Saddam Hussein. We killed between 650,000 and 1 million. Today, Iraq is in an incoherent battle between Shia and Sunni death squads. We pushed Iraq into a proxy posture with Iran, which is exactly the foreign policy outcome we've been trying to avoid. We created ISIS. We drove 2 million refugees up into Europe. Mm-hmm. And that ended up with Brexit. And the riots that are happening right now in France are a direct result of, ultimately our blowback from the Iraq War and the Syria War. So we spent $8 trillion on it. And now we're putting another $113 billion in March to Ukraine, a war that could have easily been settled. The Russians tried twice to settle it. On terms that were very, very beneficial to us. In both cases, we forced Lansing to sabotage those agreements. It's a war that shouldn't have happened, that could have been solved with diplomacy. We committed $113 billion. And and now both houses of Congress, both Republican Democratic Party leadership with the White House has approved another $24 billion. And this is endless. This will go on for decades. So, when we committed this money, the first $113 billion tranche, in March, that same month, we cut Medicare to 15 million Americans. We took away their health care. And we took away food stamps. We cut food stamps to 30 million Americans from $283 a month to $23 a month. I was in a food kitchen yesterday in Flint, and people are starving in this country. Mm-hmm. And so but that same month also, the Fed printed $300 billion unanticipated dollars to bail out the Silicon Valley Bank. So when the bankers need it, and when the military-industrial complex needs it, we got plenty. We got all they need. Just incidentally, the entire budget for EPA is $12 billion. That's all we got for the environment in this country. For our Purple Mountains majesties, for our lakes, our rivers, and streams, that's it. We're sending 12 times that to Ukraine.
Wrong.
We got the CDC is $12 billion. They don't spend it very well, but I'm going to give it that. When Mitch McConnell asked that month, March of 2022, can we really afford to send $113 billion to Ukraine? He said, don't worry, because it's not really going to Ukraine. It's going to U.S. military contractors. The General Dynamics, to Raytheon, to Boeing and Lockheed. So it's really just coming back for us. He acknowledged that it was a money laundering scheme for the military-industrial complex. Well, who do you think owns every one of those companies? And I saw Tim Scott the other night on the Republican debate, where they were all talking. Vivek was questioning the war. He's the only one there that was questioning. All the other ones were saying, no, this is great, and then after we do this, we're going to go to war on Mexico, and then we're going to go to war on China. And Tim Scott said, you don't understand. It's not a gift. We're not giving it to Ukraine. It's a loan. They got to pay it back. Oh, how many of you think any part of that is going to be paid back?
No way.
Nobody. You're right. It's not. So why do we call it a loan? When everybody knows it's not ever intended to be paid back. We call it a loan because when you call it a loan, you can impose conditions on the person that you loan it to. So they impose, the aid package is filled with conditions, very onerous, burdensome conditions. A lot of them have to do with an austerity program in Ukraine to make sure no poor people in Ukraine get any money at all. And that the education systems and everything else is bankrupted. But also it requires Ukrainian government to sell its assets. So if Ukrainian government owns ports or roads or airports or whatever, it's now going to sell those to big corporations, multinational corporations. The most important thing is it requires Ukraine to sell its farmland. So Ukraine's farmland is the richest farmland in the world. It is the breadbasket of Europe. There's been 1,000 years of wars fought over that farmland. It said, people joke that if you throw poop on the ground in Ukraine, something will grow that you can eat because it's so fertile. Oh, everybody wants that farmland. And now, since the beginning of the war, 30% of it has been sold. Most of it to Cargill, DuPont, and Monsanto. And who do you think owns all of those companies? Cargill is privately owned, but there is one other stakeholder, which is a major stakeholder, which is BlackRock. The rest of them are, it's the major owner, BlackRock and Vanguard, which own each other, are the owners. So like I said, they're doing it right in front of us. The CEO of BlackRock, Larry Fink, is on the board of the World Economic Forum.
Boo!
And they, when they gather, they gather in Davos. They call it the Billionaires Boys Club. Gathers in Davos once a year to plan what the world will look like for the rest of humanity. And they call that vision the Great Reset. And when he was asked, what does the Great Reset really mean for us? And Klaus Schwab, who's the director of World Economic Forum, said it means that you will own nothing and you will be happy. So they're on their way to do at least the first part of that. They're going to own everything, and we're going to become renters, we're going to become borrowers, they're going to commoditize humanity, we're going to become serfs on our own land. And, when they had the debate the other night, nobody was talking about these things. What they talk about is the issues that divide us all.
Yep.
The issues of, and they're important issues of guns, abortion, of trans rights, of immigration or whatever, but they're all very, they're culture war issues that keep us all at each other's throats. And we know, unsolvable in the political process. It's just a constant conflict. And at least the conventional political process. So and none of them are talking about what's really happening in our country, the level of desperation, the disintegration, these rises in suicides and alcoholism and addiction that are debilitating our community. The only solution they have, the fentanyl crisis, is we're going to go to war with Mexico. Oh, it's all things about conflict that escalate the conflicts between blacks and whites and Republicans and Democrats and natives and immigrants in this country, and we're all at each other's throats all the time, and it's all being exasperated by our political leadership. And when the king and queen look over the balustrades of their castle and they see all of their subjects fighting each other, they go back to the big feast and they pop champagne corks because they know nobody's going to come over the wall for them to take back their stuff. And what I'm trying to do with this campaign is to get us to stop fighting each other so we can go over that wall. really briefly about one of my programs, then I'm going to let you ask questions. But, you know, we kicked off the great prosperity in this country with that 50-year period with a housing boom. And when I go back into office, I'm going to do everything I can to initiate a new housing boom. And one of the things I'm going to do is create a new class of mortgages that are available to single-family home buyers for 3% interest. I'm going to do that without driving up the debt, which we need to stop doing. I'm going to do it by, you know that if you have a rich uncle and he'll co-sign your mortgage for you, that you can get a much better rate because the bank is basing their interest rates to you not on your lousy credit rating, but on your uncle's superb credit rating. So I'm going to give everybody a rich uncle, which is Uncle Sam. Uncle Sam to co-sign the mortgage. If you default, the house goes to Uncle Sam, and it's, you know, and no foul. And you know, Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae did that, and they ended up with a lot of houses, and now they have a $110 billion surplus that's sitting in a bank, which I'm also going to use to get people into homes. I finance it by selling T-bills at 3% zero interest to finance this program. So the market will finance it rather than the taxpayer. And I'm going to give the first $500,000 of these to teachers because that's the most important thing. We need to start supporting them because we need to focus on our schools and making sure that they have homes nearby and that they're they're part of communities and that we're all working together to build communities. So I'm going to, I want to, look, I know how to unravel what's happening on Capitol Hill. How can I say that? I've spent 40 years suing the corporations that now own our government and suing regulatory agencies. I've sued almost all the regulatory agencies, DOT. I'm now effectively in litigation with them, with the USDA on multiple occasions, which is supposed to help family farmers and give us nutritious food. I've sued EPA more times than I can count, NIH, CDC, FDA. When you sue these agencies, you get a PhD in how to unravel the corruption. It makes you understand how did this happen? Why are these people acting the way they're doing? The opposite of what they're supposed to be doing. I know all of you have had questions about government policies that make no sense. And then, if you see them up close, you understand how it happens. A lot of it is perverse incentives. A lot of it is just personnel who should not be running. When I sued Monsanto, in the discovery process, we uncovered emails, years and years of emails between the director of the pesticide division at EPA, a man named Jess Rowland. I always like to repeat his name because I don't think he should sleep easy. And the heads of Monsanto. And it turns out we were paying him for all these decades, but he was actually secretly working for Monsanto, and they were telling him, you got to kill this study, you got to falsify science here. They were doing everything they could because they knew that Roundup caused cancer. And they were just trying to keep that science off the books. And at one point they said to him, we need you to kill a study that's being done by an entirely different agency, ATSDR. And he said to them, well, that's not even my agency. I don't have any supervision, but I'm going to kill it. And you have to give me a gold medal when I do that. So, unfortunately, Jess Rowland is the template. He is not the exception. He's the rule. There are people like that in almost all of the agencies. And I know their names in many cases, and I understand how they act. And I'm going to move them out very, very quickly. but I can't do it on my own. I said in my announcement speech that if you give me a sword and some ground to stand on, I'll take your country back for you. But I need your help. Go to Kennedy24.com, volunteer, send $5 if you can. If you can't do that, volunteer. Whatever you do, spread the word, wear a Kennedy t-shirt, wear a Kennedy hat, put a bumper sticker, put a lawn sign up, get people talking about it. We did a poll recently in Michigan, and there's a lot of people who don't know that I'm running. So
I know, it's crazy.
I know, it's crazy. I had to fire half the people who work for me. But we need to spread the word. So
every day.
Get out there and we'll see you all on the barricades. And thank you very much for your support.